What happens when the greatest manager in football history walks away from the biggest club in England? For Manchester United, the answer wasn't immediate. The trophies didn't disappear overnight, and the club didn't suddenly forget how to win. But beneath the surface, the foundations of an empire were already beginning to crack. For more than 2 decades, Sir Alex Ferguson had been the constant force holding everything together. When he retired in 2013, after delivering a 20th league title, he left behind one of the most successful clubs the sport had ever seen. Yet within just a few years, Manchester United had transformed from champions into a club searching for its own identity. The real question isn't simply why they declined, it's why a club built to dominate seems so unprepared for life after its greatest leader. To understand the collapse, you first have to understand the standard Ferguson created. During his 26 years at Old Trafford, Manchester United became synonymous with relentless ambition. They won 13 Premier League titles, 2 Champions Leagues, countless domestic trophies, and, perhaps more importantly, developed a culture where winning wasn't celebrated, it was expected. Ferguson constantly rebuilt his squads, replacing legendary players before decline could set in. He demanded discipline, accountability, and an unshakable belief that no match was ever lost until the final whistle. His greatest achievement wasn't simply collecting silverware, it was creating a system where every player, coach, and staff member understood exactly what Manchester United stood for. But while Ferguson's retirement dominated the headlines, another departure received far less attention. Chief Executive David Gill also stepped down in the same summer. Together, Ferguson and Gill had formed one of football's strongest leadership partnerships. Ferguson managed football matters while Gill handled business operations, allowing decisions to move quickly and with a shared vision. Losing both at the same time wasn't simply replacing two executives. It was removing the club's entire leadership structure in one stroke. Their chosen successor was David Moyes. On paper, the appointment made sense. Moyes had spent more than a decade performing miracles with Everton on limited resources, earning widespread respect across English football. Ferguson himself reportedly recommended him. But replacing Ferguson wasn't just another managerial job. It was perhaps the most impossible position in modern sport. Every training session, every substitution, every defeat was compared to the greatest manager the Premier League had ever known. The problems emerged almost immediately. Several experienced coaches who had worked alongside Ferguson departed as well, removing valuable continuity inside the club. Players who had trusted Ferguson's authority suddenly found themselves adapting to entirely different methods. Confidence began to fade, results worsened, and belief quickly turned into uncertainty. Less than a year after becoming champions, Manchester United finished 7th. Moyes was dismissed before completing his first season, but the damage extended far beyond one disappointing campaign. Instead of establishing stability, the club entered a cycle of constant rebuilding. Louis van Gaal brought tactical discipline but struggled to produce exciting football. Jose Mourinho delivered trophies, including the Europa League, yet frequent conflicts created fresh divisions. Ole Solskjaer restored optimism and reached several finals, but inconsistency prevented lasting success.
Erik ten Hag initially offered a long-term vision, only to face familiar problems as expectations continued to rise. Each manager inherited players signed for someone else's system, forcing another expensive rebuild before the previous one had even finished. Recruitment became another major weakness. During Ferguson's reign, transfers were usually driven by clear football logic. After his departure, the strategy became increasingly reactive. Big money signings generated headlines, but rarely solved deeper problems. Angel Di Maria, Paul Pogba's world record return, Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez, Jadon Sancho, Antony, and several others arrived with enormous expectations, yet many struggled to justify their price tags. Some were played out of position. Others joined teams without a defined style. Instead of building a balanced squad, United often assembled talented individuals who never truly fit together. Meanwhile, football itself was evolving. Across Europe, clubs embraced data-driven recruitment, specialized sporting directors, and clearly defined playing philosophies. Manchester City built an entire football operation inspired by Pep Guardiola's principles, ensuring every signing supported a long-term identity. Liverpool transformed under Jurgen Klopp by combining intelligent analytics with high-intensity football and carefully targeted recruitment. United, by comparison, frequently appeared to change direction whenever a new manager arrived, spending enormous sums without creating a consistent football philosophy. Ownership also became a part of the conversation. The Glazer family's stewardship generated enormous commercial growth, turning Manchester United into one of the world's most valuable sports brands. Financially, the club remained remarkably successful, but many supporters argued that commercial priorities increasingly overshadowed football decisions. While rivals invested in modern structures behind the scenes, United often appeared slow to adapt. Fans weren't simply frustrated by losing matches, they feared the club had lost sight of what had made it great in the first place. As defeats mounted, the psychological burden became impossible to ignore. Every new manager was expected to restore Ferguson's dynasty immediately. Every new signing was expected to become the next club legend. Every poor result sparked worldwide criticism because Manchester United remained one of football's biggest names. That pressure created hesitation instead of confidence. Players arrived carrying not only their own expectations, but also the weight of an entire generation desperate to relive the past. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson from Manchester United's decline. Their collapse wasn't caused by one bad appointment, one failed transfer, or one unpopular owner. It was the result of multiple decisions, each weakening the foundation just a little more. The simultaneous loss of Ferguson and David Gill removed experienced leadership. Managerial instability prevented long-term planning. Recruitment lacked consistency. Rivals evolved faster, while United struggled to define who they wanted to become. The story of Manchester United after Sir Alex Ferguson isn't simply about a football club that stopped winning. It's about how difficult it is to replace culture, leadership, and identity once they're gone. Trophies can be counted, money can be spent, managers can be hired, but the values that sustain greatness take decades to build and only a few years to unravel. The greatest lesson from Manchester United's decline isn't that replacing a legendary manager is impossible. It's that greatness is never built by one person alone. But when the people holding everything together leave at the same time, even the mightiest empire can lose its way.